Thank you for joining us here at the Grown Man's Podcast, episode 56. What do you think about that? 56 episodes.
That's wild, buddy.
Yeah, and we're actually right across from each other again.
Yeah.
Right across the table.
Can't believe it.
Yeah, so we'll have a real show after the show and a nice, good old-fashioned whiskey tasting.
Oh, yeah.
Like we used to do.
Yeah.
Like months ago.
Yeah, like back, I was looking at my phone, the calendar. It's been 3 months since me and you have sat together and recorded a podcast.
It's almost kind of odd, like, looking at somebody podcasting. Now.
It
It's
is.
like the first couple times we did the podcast, it's like, ooh, we're talking about stuff in front of somebody else. It's almost like a weird feeling again.
Now that you mention it, because I didn't think about it before you mentioned it, but now that you mentioned it, it is a little bit weird to have somebody sitting across from me.
Yeah, because normally I'm just looking at, like, my curtains.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, man, there's actually the person right
I'm
across
usually
me now.
just sitting the entire time doodling, flicking my pen, watching the little peaks and valleys on the audio recording app.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Well, like we said, we are back together.
Yes.
And we would like you guys to be back with us on Twitter, if at all possible, at Grown Man's Pod.
Is that how we say that? Back together with us on Twitter?
Yeah.
Just follow us.
Just follow us
Yeah.
and interact with us.
Just do it.
Yep.
That's our slogan. Just do it.
I think it's already taken.
Oh, okay.
And Instagram at Grown Man's Podcast. And, if you'd like to support the show, be a grown man, you can go to patreon.com/grownmanspodcast to do that. But we're going to get right into things today.
Oh, yeah, big
Right
time.
into the news.
Yeah.
What you got?
Are we going to get right into this? Oh, yeah, we are.
Uh-huh.
Because guess what? I'm on a time crunch here.
T-Bone's got to leave.
I'll tell you what, buddy. You hit that record button, and all of a sudden, all the cares and worries of my world just melted right away. I just got right into podcasting mode. And I was like, where do I really have to be?
Have to? You don't have to.
Well, I mean, I do, but I can sit here and chat a spell with you. But yeah, let me get into the news here. The first thing that I have on my news docket, a little docket, you like that, Hattie? The word
I like
docket?
it. Yeah,
It's
I
good.
see the little docket right in front of you.
Yeah, it's my docket. Is Eagles wide receiver Deshaun Jackson is, instead of being in favor of pumping crowd noise into empty stadiums for when they play their games to a crowdless football game, he likes the idea of putting microphones on the players and trying to capture some of the on-field, back and forth that you wouldn't necessarily be able to capture if you, if it was a stadium filled with a crowd that was making a lot of noise. I think that'd be interesting to be able to hear the back and forth, the banter, the trash talking.
I think it'd be pretty cool. I mean, especially if they do play NFL games without real, fans in the stadium. I think that's a kind of a cool dynamic instead of just like fake stuff that they want to pump in or after the fact, like sound effects or something. Like let's get a closer look to the players on the field and all that kind of stuff.
And I think that's the official position of the Grown Man's Podcast, isn't it? That there will not be fans in the stands.
I think there will be.
Oh,
fans
you
in
do?
the stands.
Okay.
I do.
I could not remember what you.
I think for the preseason there might not be, but when season 1 actually kicks off, I think there will be fans in the stands. There might be like every other seat or every third seat or limited capacity at some way, shape, or form in the stadiums, but I think there will be at least a few real fans in the stands. Yes.
See, I heard Mark Cuban talking about this on an interview because I guess he's like on, I don't know if it's the national or the NBA committee for like reopening sports back into the world or whatever. I don't know if it's through the government or just through the NBA, but he was saying that one thing they're looking at doing to have fans in the stadium is instead of having every other seat, because then you'd be at a 50% capacity for the stadium, and you still wouldn't even be 6 feet apart from each other.
Right.
But, group people together that are in, groups that are traveling together.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Like if me and my family, me and my wife and my kids decide to go to a football game, we could all sit close together, one seat after the next, and then have several seats between us and the next people, so that you can get more condensed pockets of people. So that you in theory can fit more people into the stadiums.
Yeah, I mean that makes more sense. I mean the every other seat thing's just kind of like go to 50% capacity or whatever. But I mean that makes more sense because then you could like if you had a group of 6 people at the stadium, you could put them in like a row, skip a row, and then the next row have the group
if you think
of
about
like, whatever.
If you go to the football game with somebody and you have seat 1 and seat 3 and seat 2 is supposed to be empty,
yeah, you're sitting to
you're just gonna sit next to them anyway, right?
You rode in the same car most likely
so
up to the stadium.
Right,
so.
you might as well take advantage. People that are sheltering in place or that are already exposing themselves to those, possible threats. should be able to be close to each other. That way they can hopefully get people in. If that's what they do, that's what I would imagine they'll do for football. I'm still pretty strongly in the camp of the fact that there will not be not be fans in the stands, at least until the playoffs. Maybe during the playoffs they'll have fans. But I think throughout the entire regular season, there probably will not be fans.
Wow, through the entire season?
Through the entire regular season, yeah, I think that's probably what it'll be.
Wow, that's crazy.
I mean...
I do not think that's what's going to happen, but...
Maybe
would be
by...
insane if that's what happens.
We're living in an insane world,
That
Eddie.
is true.
I mean, the Grown Man's Podcast was kept apart for 3 months. I mean, stranger things have happened, right?
Stranger things
Am
have
I right
happened.
or am I right?
I mean, you're right.
I'm right.
I mean, crazy happened. So my first one is Henry Ruggs, the third Las Vegas Raiders wide receiver, number 1 wide receiver, first round. Injured his thigh helping a friend move.
Oh, Lord.
It says that he's going to probably be fine. He's doing okay and everything, but something to watch out. I mean, leg injuries to a wide receiver are worrisome.
Not ideal.
No matter how minor they may be.
But
not ideal.
What the heck is he doing helping somebody move? Like,
I mean, they are football players and athletes, but they still have lives. Like,
yeah,
they have to go and they play golf and they help friends and buddies. I mean, you could fall down the stairs in your own house and injure yourself.
I know, but who?
In a freak accident.
If I had a friend that was an NFL player, I wouldn't be asking him to help me move. Like, I'd be like, all right, you're gonna get a pass on it. I mean, you're an NFL star. I mean, you ask your buddies that got nothing else going on. You don't ask your professional athlete friends. I mean, I don't have any professional athlete friends. Our buddy Jeff's probably the closest thing, and he's nowhere close to a professional athlete.
I mean, he played high school sports, right?
Yeah.
Maybe college? No, not college. I don't know.
No, I
don't know about college.
I don't think he went to college. I think he went to the military out of high school.
He went to college.
Did he?
He went to Ithaca, I believe, for a little bit. Cornell.
Right out of high school?
I don't know that.
Well, I think
I know he went to some college.
I know that he got college education as an adult, I think.
Okay. That could be true.
But I don't think he went straight out of high school. Although I don't know, because I didn't know Jeff at that time.
Yeah, I didn't know him at that time.
I met Jeff when he was
I've only heard like bits and pieces of stories.
Yeah. Or actually just right out of the military, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He's not a professional athlete. I would ask Jeff to help me move. In fact, I think I have asked Jeff to help me move. I asked you to help me move, too.
Yeah, I did.
And you did.
Yeah.
Nobody got hurt on my watch.
That is true.
So Henry Ruggs maybe just needs some better friends. Hit me up, Henry Ruggs, if you're looking for some.
I mean, all it takes is like your hand to slip on a couch or something and have it come and hit you in the thigh.
I'm just saying, nobody's hand slipped on my watch.
Yeah, well.
So, yeah.
I don't know if you're the biggest safety record conscious person.
And yet nobody got hurt when they were helping me move.
That is
true.
I'm
not saying I'm the best. I'm just saying I'm better than this guy.
All right.
All right. All right. So, but he's not seriously injured. And
no, he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Just something to watch out to.
Watch out to it.
Yeah, watch out to it.
Yeah.
That's
what we say around here. Watch out to it. All right. We're getting real loosey-goosey.
I was trying to take a drink, so I wanted to hurry it up real quick.
Yes.
Like you in this podcast trying to get out of here super quick.
I got to. I got no choice, bud. All right, so DeAndre Hopkins on who is the best wide receiver in the NFL, which I would say before we even get started, I think DeAndre Hopkins definitely in the top, 3?
Yeah,
4?
Yeah, 3, probably 3.
He said this.
He's probably number 2.
We can talk about it in a sec.
All right.
We'll talk about when I'm done reading this quote
Maybe
here.
Number 1.
Yeah.
Maybe number 1 now. Julio Jones is getting a little older. Maybe number 1.
I mean, he's not that old. We'll see. Let's read the quote. It says, "I definitely think I'm the best." Okay, no, cutting right through the fat there. I definitely think I'm the best. I know I'm the best. I love Michael Thomas. Mike's my boy, but he knows if I had Drew Brees my whole career, what these numbers would be. Julio Jones knows if I had Matt Ryan my whole career. I trained with Julio too. He knows what these numbers would be. Those guys are definitely blessed to be in a position where their whole career they had a Pro Bowl quarterback. But I don't complain. I don't make excuses. I go out there and work.
I mean, he had a Pro Bowl quarterback last year.
That is true. I mean, Deshaun lost.
Where's his excuses for last year?
Deshaun is no slouch.
I don't think so.
No.
I think he's one of the best wide receivers in the league, as we already talked about a little bit. But yeah, I mean, he had a Pro Bowl quarterback last year. Is he throwing a little shade to his quarterback right now?
I don't know. I mean, could be, I suppose. I think he's definitely throwing some shade to
Matt Castle,
Brock Osweiler.
Brock Osweiler, and
whoever.
Brian Hoyer, I think, was the quarterback for a little bit there.
Hoyer was probably there. Who was the
Carr? One of the Cars was there.
Well, yeah, he was there like 15 years ago.
Wasn't he there with
not when
Hopkins?
No.
All right.
No. I mean, I don't know how long Hopkins have been playing, but Hopkins is what, maybe 5-6 years in the league?
Probably.
Yeah, there's no way he crossed
right.
over with David Carr. But yeah, so he's saying, listen, Michael Thomas, he's great, but he's got Drew Brees, and then you got Julio Jones, he's great, but he's got Matt Ryan, which I think that's a lesser argument. I mean, Matt Ryan's a great quarterback. He's not Drew Brees, in my opinion.
I think you can get better numbers with Matt Ryan than you can with Drew Brees, honestly.
Really?
For a wide receiver, if you're a good one, yeah. Think about Drew Brees' game. He spreads it around. Like, he hits consistently
That's
8
true.
different wide receivers. Like, Drew Brees is better than Matt Ryan, don't get me wrong, but the offense that they run in New Orleans is way different than Atlanta. Like, Julio Jones' numbers are, very, very good, and so is Michael Thomas. But Drew Brees spreads it around a lot more than the offense.
I like that
Atlanta.
argument. Yeah, I like that. So, is he throwing shade at DeAndre or not DeAndre? Watson. Deshaun Watson. I'm so glad they're not on a team anymore because I've always gotten their names mixed up. Deshaun Watson, is he throwing a little bit of shade at him? Is he maybe throwing a little bit of preemptive shade at his new quarterback? Saying, hey, listen, if I don't perform here, it's because I don't have a great quarterback thrown to me. I ain't like Julio over there having Matt Ryan throw to me. I'm not like Michael Thomas having Drew Brees throw to me. So I got the short little munchkin quarterback thrown to me. I can't even see him over the line. He's not going to be able to see me. Is that what he's doing?
Yeah. Maybe a little.
Yeah.
Like, remind me again who Deshaun Watson plays for now. I know he got traded.
The Cardinals.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
They got Kyler Murray, or as you like to say, Kyle Murray. Kyler Murray.
All right.
So, that's his new quarterback, and maybe he's looking at the game tape. Maybe he's saying, you know what, this guy, he likes little short out routes. He does not like throwing it deep. I'm not going to be able to use my skills as well here. Maybe that's what he's thinking. I don't know if that's what he's thinking.
I think he's thinking that, oh, man, I had 1 year with a Pro Bowl quarterback last year.
Yep.
And now they traded me to, a non-Pro Bowl quarterback. I mean, who knows where Kyler Murray is going to be in his career. I mean,
some people love him. Some people are kind of jury's out on him. I'm kind of
I think jury's out on him camp.
Yeah, I am definitely in that range also.
But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you do look, if you take Julio Jones and Michael Thomas and you look at their careers, they've had very good quarterbacks for the majority of their career.
And consistent. They've had the same quarterback their whole time.
Yep.
Whereas,
and Hopkins has been...
And he's been good with all these crappy quarterbacks that have been, in and then out, and then a different guy comes in.
Yep.
And, he's cycled through them, and he's quarterback proof. I will say that about Hopkins.
I think it'd be an interesting stat to look up how many quarterbacks each year he's averaged. I bet it's over 2. Throughout his career with the Texans, I bet it's over 2 quarterbacks per year he's gone through.
I think that's probably right there.
With all the injuries and everything
he's
had to deal with.
Deshaun Watson has been there, but he's been injured, I think every year except for last year. I don't think he was injured last year. But the first 3 years, I think he had injury problems, and there was quarterbacks coming in. A couple of those years, there was some real cycling. Like during the Brock Osweiler saga, there was some real bad cycling of quarterbacks going on there. So that would not surprise me if it was an average of 2 per year. Yeah.
Well, let's kick off the backup quarterback signings. Veteran backup quarterback signings. My first one, Andy Dalton got signed to a $3 million deal worth up to $7 million with incentives, depending on what happens there. But a base $3 million deal with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, so the Cowboys got their starter.
Yeah,
that's good.
For sure. Real cheap, too.
Yeah.
Reported over $30 million cheaper than that other guy that they want to get. Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on with Dak Prescott, buddy. You just need to take the money and run.
He wants to make crazy money. And so there's some statistics going around about how much you can pay a quarterback and win a Super Bowl. Only one quarterback in the history has been able to go to the Super Bowl with a cap hit total of around 14%. It's 13 point something, but around, I think it's 14.1 actually, percent where the quarterback money is equal to that to the percentage of their salary cap. And that was Matt Ryan when he went to the Super Bowl, and he was the only one that's even made it to the Super Bowl, let alone win it.
Those numbers don't lie, Hetty.
Those numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
And I think it's just crazy if the Cowboys give him as much money as he really wants.
Also, do they have money? Like, I feel like they have been. I feel like they're like the Rams from 2 years ago, where it's just like everybody that wants money, they're like, yeah, have as much of it as you want. You know, there's is anybody in charge of their like account spending there?
I mean, somehow they're still under the salary cap because there's a hard salary cap in the NFL. I mean, but
kudos to that front office because they're figuring out a way to work that salary cap to their favor.
I mean, Ezekiel Elliott got paid probably a little bit slightly over market value.
Yep.
And they paid somebody else. Amari Cooper got money, and some defensive player.
Yeah, they I feel like they paid a bunch of people.
Yeah,
even players that weren't on the roster before. They're like, yeah, come on, we'll give you all the money you want here.
If I was Jerry Jones, I would say franchise tag Dak this year, and if he turns out to be the most amazing quarterback in the history of the NFL, you give him the huge contract.
Well, I think they did franchise tag him, right?
They did.
Yeah,
he has yet to sign that though.
Yeah,
you have until July 31st.
I thought it was July 15th. I think.
All right, that could be July something.
Yeah,
to sign that deal.
Yep. There's rumors that the Cowboys are trying to go after Jamal Adams from the Jets, safety, all-pro safety.
If Dak doesn't work out, I mean, Andy Dalton's a pretty good backup plan.
Yeah, I mean,
we're talking about backup plans.
Yeah,
your favorite team.
Oh yeah, big time, Bob.
Signed a backup plan.
Love it. Yeah, Joe Flacco signed with the New York Jets, Jets. A team-friendly deal, I might add.
Very team-friendly.
I believe, and don't quote me on this. I mean, I guess you can quote me, but I don't own any kind of responsibility for the quote. I believe it was a $1 million deal.
I believe that's true.
Yes.
I believe he has incentives in there as well.
It might have been 1 point something, but yeah, with some escalators maybe if he gets to play or whatever. But obviously he didn't look great last year in Denver, but you know, I mean, he's gone to a Super Bowl and won a Super Bowl before. He's got plenty of NFL experience. He should be a good person to have, you know, talking into the ear of Sam Darnold, even if he's not out there playing, obviously.
Yeah, I think he's top. I mean, absolutely top 5 backup quarterback in the league. Probably top 3.
I would say so.
Andy Dalton now is a top 5. Top 3 guy.
I think Andy Dalton might be the best backup quarterback. I mean, you got the Ryan Fitzpatrick to a Tagovailoa situation.
Yeah,
I don't know who's. I mean,
Ryan Fitzpatrick has proved to be a very inconsistent quarterback, hit or miss.
Okay, he as a starter, sure, but as a backup, the man's fire. I mean, you can't argue with the fact that every single time that he's called on to come in as a backup quarterback, he comes in there and just absolutely rips the defense a new butthole, you know. I mean, and does it in a spectacular way. Yeah, he's got all kinds of good juju on his side, and he's a lot of fun to watch.
He's like one of the funnest quarterbacks to watch.
Yes.
I like him a lot.
I would rather have Ryan Fitzpatrick over Andy Dalton as a backup quarterback, just because I think Ryan Fitzpatrick's more fun and he's not a redhead. But Hetty says, "What's that about?" Hetty's not redheaded, so I don't know why.
I think it's funny that I think people forget how good Andy Dalton was when he had a good team. Like when he had a young AJ Green and a good offensive line, and like when the Bengals weren't just a dumpster fire for like terrible mismanagement and coaches and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
People forget Andy Dalton was a winning quarterback. Yeah, I mean, went to playoffs multiple times,
and like was looking like the real deal.
Yep.
I mean, he was a good fantasy option. He was a good real life quarterback.
And then obviously I think
the team crumbled around him,
and his offensive line has been terrible for multiple years.
If you look at what happened last year, I mean, that was not his fault.
No.
The Bengals' problems last year was not his fault. He had, again, bad offensive line play. His number one wide receiver, AJ Green, did not play a single snap the entire year.
Yep.
I mean, there's, what are you going to do when you're a new coach, that did not know what he was doing?
Yeah, I think if you look at the situation, Andy Dalton's in the best situation.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a super good offensive line, very talented offensive weapons around him. He could do a lot with the Cowboys.
But do you think he's going to get to play there? I don't think he's going to get to play.
I think he's going to play.
You think there's going to be an injury, or do you think that Dak's going to get?
I think either Dak is going to screw around long enough where Andy Dalton plays the first week of the season, or he gets injured. But I think Andy Dalton starts a game for the Dallas Cowboys next year.
Yeah.
Whatever situation that may be, injury, like contract issues with Dak, Dak just being dumb and doesn't want to play a game or sits out or whatever, whatever scenario that happens, Andy Dalton plays. as a starter for the Dallas
without
Cowboys.
An injury-related situation.
That's in there as well.
Oh, you're saying
a situation happens with the Cowboys where Andy Dalton starts.
I like it.
At least a week.
I like it.
And Joe Flacco signed a $1.5 million deal with incentives that is worth up to $4.5.
Okay.
So
even still, I think that's even with the escalators. That's
even if he makes 4.5, that's a very good deal.
Yep. Agreed. 100%. All right. Let's see here. What else do I got? Okay, some new NFL rules have passed, and so the NFL has, and the NFL owners have voted to allow teams to now designate 3 players to return from injured reserve. Last year, it was 2 players on the IR boomerang, so this year it'll be 3, which will be nice, specifically possibly with possible coronavirus situations where some players may have to, may contract the virus and have to be, quarantined away from the team and, separated from the roster for a period of time.
I think they should make I like the rule change. But if a player does contract a coronavirus type thing where they have to be quarantined for 2 weeks or 3 weeks to be on the safe side or whatever that happens to be.
That shouldn't count against them. Yeah.
I think that should be an exception.
I do agree with that.
Especially for this year. Yeah. Because you don't want the whole league just to spread through it.
Yeah.
If one player gets it,
I think this is good in general.
Yes.
I think that when you have players that get injured, I think that you should give them the opportunity to come back. And I'm not exactly sure what the reasoning behind not allowing players to come back if they're seriously injured, they're going to miss some time. Why? Just so you have to can't carry them on your roster, or
so it has to do with the roster because you only can have 53 players in your roster. You get exceptions for if you put a player on the I think it's 6 weeks they have to be out to go on the 8 weeks.
8 weeks
for the injury reserve. You put them on the regular injury reserve, they're out for the whole year. That means you still can pay them and you get exception money to be able to sign somebody to come in and be there and be over the cap. Because somebody's not playing and helping your team out.
Right.
But if they didn't have that rule, they would just be like, oh, this guy's injured, put him on injury reserve. 3 weeks later, they have, they sign people to replace him. And then they come back and they're like, now we have 58 players who are all making money on our team because we had injuries.
But you'd still have to cut those players. I mean, you wouldn't be able to keep 58 players on your roster.
Not with the injury reserve exceptions.
So you just get to have more people on your roster?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Because if you sign a guy to a 1-year deal, and then your star player comes back from injury reserve, they're still allowed to be there. They might not be. They can't be active for the game. You only can have 42
or something like that. Yeah.
Active for the game.
Although I think they also bumped that to 45 this year.
All right.
If I remember correctly.
Yep.
But
so it's just so people don't take advantage of the rules that are in place.
Gotcha. So that was one rule that passed. Also, NFL owners have voted to get rid of the loophole that Bill Belichick used against the Jets last year.
And then Mike Vrabel used against him.
Oh, in such glorious fashion.
He was real mad when it was used against him.
He was quite perturbed indeed. And I was eating it up so good. Because it was and not only was the rule that he used against the Jets used against him, but it was used against him by a former Patriots player who was beating him in a
playoff game.
Was it a playoff game?
Yeah.
It was a playoff game.
Yeah, it was Titans-Patriots in the divisional finals, I believe.
I mean, so it was a super important game by a former player using the rule that he used. You know what? I'll bet you Vrabel never in a million years would have used that if Belichick hadn't used it earlier that year.
Oh, for sure.
There's no way.
He wouldn't have known about it.
No, he wouldn't have known about it. And there was no reason for Belichick to use it against the Jets. The Jets were getting blown out in that game.
Yep.
Belichick was sending 0 blitzes against.
I think it was 31-33-0 in that game when he used it.
It was an unnecessary use of the he could have saved that for a more opportune time. I'm sure of it. And he said, you know what? I hate the Jets, so I'm going to use it here. And good Lord, I was so happy to see it come back and bite him. That's just karma for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good for him.
Seems like if you had a loophole in a rule, I would definitely use that against a team when it's not already done.
Oh yeah,
30-0 or 30-3 or whatever it was. They were going to win that game regardless.
Yes.
Use it in a situation where it's going to benefit you.
But he wanted to just dig the Jets. That's what it was. It came down to he's like, you know what? I've been sitting on this. They're already losing by a glorious amount of points. I don't need to do this, but I'm going to do it just to rub salt in their wound. And then it got used against him in the playoffs, and it's just, is there any more poetic justice out there?
None.
And he'll never be able to use it on anybody else ever again. So there you have it.
That is true.
All right. That's all I got.
All right, that's all I have as well.
All right.
So let's get right into a couple weeks ago before we missed a podcast last week, we said that we were going to go through a rundown of the divisions in the NFL, where we think they will place, and what we have. And the first one up is the AFC East.
Oh, yeah.
So let's do it.
You want to do this?
It's your home court division, right?
That's
here.
right.
Home field.
Home field.
Not home court.
I mean, you can call it what you want. I mean,
It's home field.
On the old football court.
Yep, the old football court.
Yeah, AFC East. Obviously, the division that I know more than any other division in football. And this year, I think, will be a very interesting. I think it's going to be one of the most competitive divisions for the title of. I mean, not as far as competitive among the leagues, but I think that this division will probably be won by a close margin, I will say.
Okay.
I think that, whoever wins it is not going to win it by much.
All right.
Okay.
That could be true. You want to hear the Vegas spread, their odds?
Yes.
All right. So the Vegas, this is according last active May 12th.
Okay.
Was when this was reported. So
A couple weeks ago.
Buffalo Bills are favored to win the division at plus 125 odds.
Not surprised by that.
New England Patriots, second, plus 130. New York Jets
Shameful.
and the Dolphins are both plus 800 odds.
Interesting.
So that's the way that Vegas has them as of May 12th. But that's not what you're here to listen to.
No.
You're here to listen to what the Grown Man Podcast has to say.
Listen, those nerds out there in the desert can sit there and punch numbers into their calculator all they want.
Mm-hmm.
That's good for them. Because guess what? They don't know what I know.
All right.
That should be a segment. You don't know what I know.
You don't know what I know.
You don't know what I know. Because the AFC East, it ain't going down like that. The Bills.
Who do you think is going to win the division?
All right.
Right now, let's go in reverse order. Let's have a little bit of mystery here.
All right, so I'll tell you what I did.
Fourth place.
Before we started recording, I just pulled up each team's or schedule for this year.
Yep.
And just ran through it real quick. Very Rorschach test style, and just was like, boom, what do I think? Boom, what do I think? Didn't put a whole lot of thought into each one. But this is what I came up with. All right. Last place, Dolphins 6-10.
All right.
And that could.
Okay.
I will say, I think that there is a good chance that all of these things could be off by a couple games. I mean, there's obviously a lot of play in there, but yeah, I think Dolphins. I think they're going to come in last place, but I think it's going to be a decent showing. I could see them definitely doing 7 or 8 wins, but based on my snap judgments on the games, I gave them 7 or 6.
Okay, 6-10.
Yep.
All right.
Next up, got the Pats, 7-9. They're not trying to win. Belichick has come out and said this is not the quarterback room that we have by design. Their quarterback situation is their quarterback situation by accident.
They have a real rough schedule.
Lack of options. They don't have enough money to go out and get one of these good quarterbacks. They got a rough schedule. Yep. And yeah, they're going to find out what it's like to go into a season without Tom Brady, which they have not had to do in over a decade, I want to say.
Okay.
And it's a fairly depleted roster. When you sit down and look at it, as far as playmakers are concerned on offense, your best offensive playmaker is Julian Edelman, who was very dependent on the very quick snap decisions that were made pre-snap at the line by Tom Brady. He's not going to have that with Brian Hoyer. He's not going to have that with Jared Stidham. Pats could go 7-9. I genuinely think that's. I think that's a really nice place for them to settle into 7 wins.
Okay.
And for the Jets and the Bills, duking it out, Hattie.
Duking it out
for first place. I'm giving it to the Jets.
Whoa!
I'm giving it to the Jets.
Homer.
Now, I could easily see this flipping. I currently have the Jets at 10-6 and the Bills at 8-8. I could easily see the Bills doing 10-6 and the Jets 8-8. I think that the Bills are going to regress from their previous, situation last year. I know they got a couple playmakers, but their schedule is going to be tougher this year, and I just don't see. I know they won a lot of close ones last year, I want to say, based on my recollection. Mm-hmm. And that's just, again, my snap judgment on it. But I don't see them. What do you think?
So what was the Jets' record last year?
Last year was 7-9, I want to say.
6-10?
No, I think it was 7-9.
I think it was 6-10.
Well, let's look, Hattie.
All right.
7-9.
7-9?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And the Bills were 10-6.
Okay.
So, in the Jets last year were without Sam Darnold. for the first. He was there for the first week, but he had mono, and then he was out for 3 games, I think. So, and then they still almost got a wild. They were still almost in the run for a wild card spot. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. And the Jets also have a harder schedule, but the Jets also have a better, much better offensive line. And I think that much better offensive line is going to go a long ways with Sam Darnold because he can make stuff happen off schedule. He doesn't have to have a great offensive line. He just has to have one that gives him a little bit of time. And I think that you're going to see that this year.
All right, so I'm going to go 4th place at 5-11. The Patriots.
Wow.
I think the Patriots are going to be terrible this year. They don't have talent anywhere on that roster. They have the second hardest schedule in the league, I believe. Second or third hardest. They have a real rough stretch where they have to travel out to California, I believe, the West Coast for multiple games. Like, they got no favors in the matchups of their schedule. Yeah, they got no favors with the actual travel of their schedule. And they just have no players. Yeah. They have no talent. Like, Julian Edelman is probably the best player on their team. Yeah. And certainly at this point in his career, he's not really a Pro Bowl player anymore. Kind of a step below.
I don't think he ever really was a Pro Bowl player. I mean,
but
he had good stats because his quarterback was Tom Brady.
Yep. I think they're going to be awful. I'm going to give them 5-11. Next one up, it's really tough to pick my next one because I don't know how, obviously, Tua is probably going to start with the Dolphins. They kind of kicked it together a little bit at the end of last year, playing together. They were playing well. They had a good draft. And they had a very good draft.
I can see the Dolphins making some noise and bumping either the Jets or the Bills into 3rd place. I can see that.
But I'm going with the Dolphins here.
Okay.
I think with a rookie quarterback, you look at the stats of rookie quarterbacks unless you get, the one that actually propels them to somewhere. It's really tough to build a team around a new quarterback when you have to learn their strengths and weaknesses. It's just real tough, especially since Tua is a completely different quarterback than Ryan Fitzpatrick was.
Oh, yeah.
And Ryan Fitzpatrick was the player that was actually doing a lot of stuff to help them win last year
at
the end.
Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's a gunslinger. Tua is not that kind of a quarterback.
Yep, so I'm going to say Dolphins 3rd place at 6-10.
Okay.
Jets 2nd place. I just don't think they have all the pieces yet.
Okay.
I think they're still young. I think they're still a couple pieces away. Their schedule's...
It's a rough schedule.
It's kind of a rough schedule.
And I know Gus is going to give me a hard time about me saying the Jets are going to win the division at 10-6. I know you are, Gus, but you know what? I think that offensive line is going to make up a big difference. I do. And that's what I'm going on.
They still need some other talented people on offense.
I think they have a pretty talented offense.
All right.
You got Le'Veon Bell, who's going to be running behind a better offensive line. That's going to make a big difference for Lev. And, then you got Jamison Crowder, you got Denzel Mims, who they just drafted, who some people think was the best wide receiver in the draft class, or at least the most well-rounded. We could use another good wide receiver. I will say that. But on offense, I think we're fairly well set.
All right. I'm going to put the Jets at 2nd at 7-9.
Interesting.
1st place, I give it to Buffalo.
Okay.
They were a pretty solid team last year. They're very well coached. I like their GM. I'm still not completely sold on Josh Allen.
Well, that would be wise, Hattie, because he literally had the worst completion percentage in the league last year.
I'm not sold on Josh Allen.
He's the most inaccurate quarterback in the NFL.
Sam, at this point, could be the best quarterback in that division right now.
Yeah.
We don't know what Tua is or going to
be.
I
think that's a reasonable conclusion.
But I'm going to say Buffalo, 11-5, take the division number 1.
Wow. Okay.
They're just very well. They're best coached with a good team. Like, obviously, Bill Belichick's the best coach, but he just has no players and doesn't have a team around him anymore.
Belichick's a better coach, clearly. He's the best coach in the league. But
Bills have the best team and second best coached.
Yeah, I don't know. I like. I can't think of his name right now. The head coach down in Miami.
It's not Brian Flores anymore, is it?
Yes, Flores.
Is it Flores?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I think he's got a nice buy-in down there. I like what he's doing. They're building the team the right way. They had a nice draft. I think that Brian Flores, because sometimes you get those slingshot teams, that go from worst to first. I could see them making some noise. It would not surprise me in the least.
I actually, before I sat down and said it, I actually had Dolphins at number 2.
Yeah.
Like when I was thinking about it throughout the week, the last couple of weeks, I've been thinking about this would probably be the division we would do first. I actually had them second most of the time, but with a rookie quarterback, it's just so tough to know what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I do like Brian Flores, though. He had a real I didn't like him at first.
Mm-hmm. Me either.
He had a real rough start to the season where it's like, ooh, is this guy going to work out? But he really pulled and got that team, rallying around him, ready to go, and they really played. Especially when like him and some players came out and were like, all right, we're not tanking anymore.
Right.
Whether they were doing that at the beginning.
Yeah.
Who knows? It looked like they were.
We were pretty sure that they were.
But once the coach came out and was like, we are not tanking anymore, Ryan Fitzpatrick came out and was like, we're going to play. And a couple other players came out. And
well,
they
the front office can tank as hard
together.
as they want, but the players and the coaches are still going to play hard.
Yep.
Which
so,
is admirable.
Great. I thought Brian Flores finished out the season really well, and looking forward to seeing what he does with his new team, and especially Tua. Because, rookie quarterback. Second one off the board. It's always exciting to watch the top few quarterbacks and see what they do and see if they transition to the NFL and stuff. So.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely am in lockstep with you there. Like I said, this is one of the hardest divisions, I think, in the NFL to get an accurate gauge on, how it's going to shake out and who's going to win and by how many. I think the thing with the Bills is I just can't get past how inaccurate Josh Allen is.
But they have a solid team everywhere else.
They do have a solid team. They improved his wide receiver core with Stephon Diggs, and I do like that.
I think Diggs is like the perfect wide receiver to get Josh Allen. I've explained to you off the air why I think that's the case.
Okay. Well, you can do it on air if you want.
I can. Josh Allen is just a huge armed quarterback. Accuracy, very suspect.
Very.
Stephon Diggs is a player that puts the Jets on. And there's going to be a couple plays with the Buffalo Bills next year where Josh Allen just chucks it out there.
Yeah.
And Diggs is going to put on, it doesn't have to be accurate. He's just got to be fast enough to go and get underneath it.
It's got to be within the realm of, where he's supposed to be.
Look at some of Diggs' plays from the last 2 years when he was with the Vikings.
I like Josh Allen. I should say, I mean, I don't.
Yeah, I like him.
I think I've been on Josh Allen's side ever since I saw him play his rookie year in preseason. Even though he's a division rival of the Jets, I like Josh Allen. I think he's a lot of fun to watch. I think he's got a great arm. His scrambling ability is really fun to watch. This is not me being a hater. I just think that...
Oh, he has accuracy issues for sure. I mean, that shows statistically.
For one year, last year they went 10-6. They got great defense. I think, without that defense, I don't think that you're going to see that 10-6, that they had last year. And I don't think they lost a lot of pieces on defense, but I don't know. I'm skeptical of whether or not they're going to be able to pull together that many wins with that inaccurate of a quarterback again.
I know a lot about Stephon Diggs because I've had him on my fantasy team for a couple years, and they're the Vikings, so they play the Packers more often than a lot of other teams. And Diggs is a player who will minimize inaccurate quarterbacks. Go look at if you go back and watch some of his replays of some of his biggest plays, they're not really that great of throws. He just has a way of being able to track the ball and being in the right spot even when the quarterback throws the wrong pass.
He's also the kind of quarterback I could see.
And he's very speedy, so he can...
I could see him getting upset and there being some fractures in the relationship there, and him not being quiet, because he's not quiet about his
I don't think he's a quiet guy.
No, I think that, if he is not happy with the way that Josh Allen is throwing the ball and making Stephon Diggs look bad, I think that you're going to hear about it, and I think that could become a problem.
It's a potential problem.
Yeah. So.
Sure. But I think he can cover up some of the inaccuracies of Josh Allen with his speed and his abilities. He's got a big catch radius, too.
Yeah.
Big catch radius and a very, very fast guy makes up for a slightly inaccurate quarterback.
Yeah.
At least to some degree. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. You throw a ball in the dirt, you throw a ball in the dirt. But
yeah, I mean, I think Stephon Diggs probably also benefited somewhat from having Adam Thielen, who was another, they had two number one wide receivers on the team. Stephon Diggs benefited somewhat from that.
But Diggs was a good wide receiver before Thielen came on.
Okay. But, you also had, Dalvin Cook, who is a great running back. You had to respect the run game, and you also had another great wide receiver out there that you had to pay attention to.
But he was good before those players got there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And good before Cousins got there.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't remember who their quarterbacks were back then.
Case Keenum was one of them.
Yes, Case Keenum was one of them. But he's a good wide receiver even without all.
I'm not saying he's a bad wide receiver. I'm not saying that at all. I would have been happy if the Jets went out and got him. A lot of us would have been happy. I don't know if I would have been happy giving up what the Bills gave up to get him.
I would have been fine with it.
I feel like, now
that I've seen our draft, the Packers, I would have been very welcome to give away all of those picks for them.
Even your new future quarterback, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, that's where I'm at, and hold my feet to the fire. Make sure you shoot us some tweets later in the season and call me an idiot if I'm way wrong.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be one of those divisions where it could be a real crapshoot as far as who's going to win it.
Yeah.
I could legitimately see any of the teams in the division winning it.
I don't.
No.
I think Bills, Dolphins, and Jets. I think Bills are going to win it. Dolphins and Jets have a slight chance. Patriots have no chance.
I don't think the Patriots have much of a chance either. But then again, you know what? Bill Belichick, the man, he did it with Matt Castle.
Unless if the Patriots go out and make some ridiculous trade and they end up with a quarterback.
Yep.
That is not Jason Statham or whatever.
Jared Stidham.
Jared Stidham. If it's not
Jason
Jared
Statham,
the action star.
Yes.
If it's not that quarterback and they go out and they can
I'm gonna play football, mate.
If they find a new quarterback and they make a trade or something, I could absolutely see him with the team that they have now.
Right.
No chance.
Yeah, with Hoyer and Stidham.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
No chance.
But you know what? Then again, you got Bill Belichick, and he's a manipulator of things. I could see him figuring out a way to do it. But it's still good defense. I mean, they still have a good defense there.
Still good, solid, well-coached defense.
And their defense was the best part of the team last year. Obviously, I've stood on a chair and screamed about how bad Tom Brady was last year and how they, only got to 12-4 because of their defense. And Tom Brady was just able to hold it together barely. But Tom Brady was not a good quarterback last year either.
All right.
You want to fight about it, Eddie?
I'm not going to fight about it anymore.
All right.
But now that you know that we are discussing we're going through each and every division in the NFL, let us know your thoughts.
Yeah.
And who you'd like us to do and what you think. Let us know.
Be kind to me on Twitter, Gus.
Yeah, you can do that on Twitter.
Yeah.
At GrownMansPod. Let us know what you think. Talking about Twitter, we actually have a question.
Yeah, it isn't even from Twitter.
Not even from Twitter.
It's our buddy Dave.
Ooh. Yeah. So somebody reached out to us and has a question, so we're going to do that. And then we will get into our first real show after the show whiskey review after that.
Yeah, it's a stupid question.
Okay.
I mean, Dave's not stupid, but the question's kind of stupid. But
you wouldn't tell me before the show.
I wouldn't, but I predicted when I talked to Dave and he asked it, I said there's going to be two different answers to this question. Me and you're going to take two approaches is my prediction. Maybe not. Right. Maybe you'll surprise me, Hattie.
All right.
Maybe your humanity will shine through. I don't know. I doubt it. I don't usually like to give you the benefit of the doubt when it comes to humanity questions, but the question is this. You are renting a storage unit, all right? When you unlock the door, you find a man duct taped to a chair. Do you immediately free him, or do you call the police and wait for them to come and sort it out?
Oh, you call the police and wait for them to sort it out for sure.
Yeah, I knew that was going to be your answer.
Absolutely.
So you don't even touch him.
Don't even touch him.
He's alive, by the way.
All right.
No, you don't have any need for any follow-up questions like, is he laboring to breathe? Is he nothing?
Cops first. And I wouldn't even stand there and watch him. I would close the door on the storage unit, then call the cops.
What is wrong
Make
with
sure
you?
It's locked up.
Who hurt you, Hattie? Who hurt you is what I want to know.
That's what I would do.
You're an awful person.
There's so many questions. Why is this guy duct taped in a storage unit?
I'll bet you could find the answer to that if you took the duct tape off his mouth and let him talk.
I will find out in probably 10 to 15 minutes when the cops show up.
Under what circumstances...
If he's breathing and he's alive for however long he's been in there... Going to save him right at that moment's not going to change anything.
If you guys can't tell, I am of the let the guy loose camp of thought on this particular topic. Let me ask you, in that brain of yours, what is the negative? What is the downside to you releasing this man who has been held captive in a storage unit, duct taped up?
You don't know why he's in there. What he done?
Okay.
Don't have any clue.
So what possible downside could there be?
There could also be he could really actually need help. And the person who is the person who put him in that situation could be watching that thing. So you close the door and you get out of there and you call the cops.
Can't do both at the same time?
Nope.
No. You're crazy.
You close the door right behind you, and you get out of the area, and you safely.
I better hope, Eddie, that I'm never lying in a ditch somewhere, and you come driving by, you're like, "No, it sucks to be T-Bone."
Sucks to be T-Bone. Well, if I knew the person, that'd be different.
Would it now?
If it was you, duct taped to the chair in the storage unit. First of all, why you have a storage unit? Because if you're actually renting a storage unit in your adult life, you are wasting money. If you have so much crap,
there is an appropriate use for
zero need.
There is an appropriate use for one.
Nope.
For instance, you're moving, and you're in the process. Like did we get a storage unit? We almost got a storage unit when we were moving from my house, when we were selling my house and then buying my next house, because we almost had to go to an apartment in between while the closing processes were taking place, and there wasn't going to be room.
But it's a temporary thing, like a month or two.
Or, for instance, you are traveling and you're not going to have an apartment anymore while you're traveling. There's uses for them. I'm not saying that's how everybody uses them. There are plenty of people that just have too much crap.
So much crap that they pay extra to store it in a dark, dingy storage unit.
Yeah.
For stuff they'll never ever use.
Yeah.
Waste of money.
Or, for instance, if you had a whole house worth of stuff, and then you moved into a small apartment that doesn't have room for things, stuff that you know that you would at some point buy again in the future, or stuff that meant something to you, you're not going to get rid of it. You don't have room to store it right now.
Waste the money. Don't even do it.
Don't even do it.
Making somebody else rich.
There you have it. That's the motto of the podcast. Storage units, don't even do it.
Waste of money.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Just do it. No, don't do it.
Just like Rent-A-Centers. Don't buy a couch from Rent-A-Center.
Of course, don't do that.
Waste of money.
That's a huge waste of money, and also could be somebody else's that was already owned and grimy and gross and ugh. Gross. Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us here at the Grown Man's Podcast. That does it for the show. If you stay after the music, you'll get a real, authentic, for the first time in 3 months, as T-Bone did the math.
Yes.
A real whiskey tasting.
That's right.
With real whiskey.
Can't wait, buddy.
And a real rating, not just like some random one we pull off the shelf and talk about stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
Roll the music, Hattie.
Welcome into the show after the show. An actual one. An actual whiskey review.
The real deal.
Yeah, face to face, right across from the table.
Love it.
Sipping a delicious whiskey, which I actually bought probably 3.5 or so months ago. It was right before all the coronavirus stuff happened.
I've been waiting on this, Hattie, because I loved it.
Yes, you really liked it. Me and you both bought a whiskey that week.
Yes.
We tasted yours, and we were going to do this one the week after. Obviously, things changed, but
we're
back
what it was.
now.
I have no idea what the whiskey was.
I don't know. That might have been the Wild Turkey. Was that the Wild Turkey one? No.
I'll bet you it's in the show notes. So let me go back. Hey, do you guys know that Hattie puts that in the show notes? That's
I do.
Something. Well, obviously you put it in the show notes. But I wonder if our listeners know that you guys can go and check out our show notes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can check out the whiskey every week that we try.
Yep. So let's see here.
With the exception being the last 3 months, because we were unable to do them.
Almost started playing it. Monkey Shoulder was what it was.
Oh, okay.
Yep, I remember that now.
Yeah, very good value.
I remember now because I read it.
So we are trying the Oban Bay Reserve Single Malt Scotch Whiskey. Mm-hmm. It's of the limited edition of the Game of Thrones whiskeys. There's a couple distilleries and stuff that does it. Mm-hmm. This is Oban's version. I did it because it's in a sweet black box and black bottle. It looks very cool. That's the reason I bought it. Plus, I like Oban, so that's another reason.
Did we discuss on the podcast, or was it off the podcast, when we argued about whether or not using like the Game of Thrones things cheapens it? Because I know that we had that discourse.
I think we did an ad. I think we talked about like
Patreon show.
We talked about it on podcast, I believe. I don't think it was like
recording when we had that conversation
specific to this, but this is why it was up.
It was specific to this one, which sparked the whole thing. I remember we talked about good brands. You'd never see a Johnny Walker. I guess there is a Johnny Walker, isn't there?
Johnny Walker has 3 of them.
Yeah. I don't like it.
I don't mind it. It's definitely, it hits home more if you like the thing. Like for example, when Star Wars came out, I believe Star Wars, whatever the last one is, Skywalker Saga,
the Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker. Yeah. So they actually had like bananas, like Dole bananas had like the Star Wars stickers on them and stuff. Like it's just a branding thing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool when you get a banana and it like has a sticker of R2D2 and like.
Yeah, but
like,
banana and high quality whiskey are two different things.
Yeah, but they do it with a lot of different things. Yeah. Like they have cars that are branded for stuff.
But I just don't think they should.
I'm in the camp. I don't mind it. Because you have to brand it something. Like if you're making a limited edition anything, you have to like brand it. And if there's a sponsor out there,
I guess
a show or a movie or like whatever, and they're like, "Hey, we'll give you X amount of dollars if you like make your special edition, like in this case, a whiskey." Then the Oban, in this case, gets to make money from that and that. And
then Game of Thrones collectors are going to pick up this bottle of whiskey maybe when they wouldn't have before.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure Game of Thrones fans bought these whiskeys without liking whiskey.
I'm sure that happens, and I'm sure that there's a fiscal business reason for it. And here's a reason I don't think I brought up before, whether we did it on podcast or we just did it while we were sitting around the podcasting table. A reason I don't like it is because this is a great whiskey, right? I really like this whiskey. And if it's a limited thing where it's specifically tied to Game of Thrones, I doubt that they're going to bring it back for an extended run.
No, probably not.
Whereas if it's a really successful whiskey, that's not branded to a specific thing, the chances of them keeping that around and bringing it back, I think, are probably higher.
Okay. I think they could bring it. I mean, if this really does sell well and people like it, I mean, they could just bring it back as the Oban Bay Reserve. Mm-hmm. They don't have that, and just do away with the branding for like if they signed a 6-year deal or
whatever,
1 year, 6 months, whatever. Just bring it back as the Oban Bay Reserve. Yeah. I mean, the option is there.
Maybe I'm being a curmudgeon, Hattie. I don't know.
Me, possible. I don't really care, branding or otherwise. If I see a limited edition something, I like limited edition somethings. Yeah, I like things that are rare and hard to find. It makes it a little bit more unique, and I don't know. It's just my personality, I guess.
If I'm talking about a Whopper, if you want to do like a Star Wars Whopper or a Game of Thrones Whopper and throw some crispy onion rings on it or something, who cares, right?
I think they actually did do that, though.
They probably did.
Like, I think there was like a bacon, like crispy onion
because
Whopper,
why wouldn't
which
you,
was
right? It's
for
a Whopper.
Like some advertisement.
And you're never going to hear me complain about that because who cares?
All right.
You buy the Whopper, you eat the Whopper. You don't. A nice bottle of whiskey. You've had it for over 3 months now, Hattie.
Yep.
It's nice.
About halfway gone.
Yeah. You have self-control more than I.
I tried not to drink it too much because I wanted to make sure that was available for this.
Greatly appreciated because, let me tell you, I have thought about buying this exact bottle in the store several times.
You should. It's not bad price. I think it's $65, something like that.
Which for a whiskey that is this nice and developed, I say is a great deal.
I think this is better than the regular Oban.
I have never had any of Oban's other whiskeys, I will say.
I have had them. Well, obviously I like Oban, so I've had them. But
I will say that this is up there with high-end Johnny Walkers for me. It's not as good as Johnny Walker Blue, but like one that we're gonna be trying probably next week, the Johnny Walker Emerald Green.
Oh yeah,
Island Green,
the one that was engraved for the cruise.
I have a bottle engraved with the Grown Man's Podcast. So that's I think this was right up there, and that was like how much did I pay for that bottle? I think it was right there in that $80 range also.
Okay.
But a very good bottle of whiskey.
Yes, I think
I like it a lot. If you guys haven't been able to figure that out.
Yeah, so I like it a lot as well. I think it's one of the most complex noses and tasting whiskeys there are. For my nose notes, there's a lot going on.
Let's hear yours.
All right. I think it's spicy right up front.
Okay.
I think there's a little bit of fruit sweetness. Okay. But like a raisin, date, like dried apricot type of fruits. There's a little bit of leather, some pepper, and a little bit of brown sugar after you've been smelling it for a while. There's a little bit of brown sugar and molassesy
I will say
type smell.
The flavors and the smells on this definitely develop as you let them sit or as you breathe them for long enough. You get new stuff as it's going. The one thing I told Hattie when we were tasting this before we started recording while we were grading it, the thing that jumped out to me first and I'll be interested to see if you smell or if you pick up on it after hearing it. Grapefruit. Give that a whiff. You pick up grapefruit off that? That's an empty nose. Smell that. That's a full nose.
There could be something kind of grapefruit there. All right.
That's the first thing that popped out to me.
I had apricots.
Yeah, and you had fruit. I
had like a raisin date type.
I definitely
fruit,
get like a strong, like ruby red grapefruit, citrusy, like tartness in the nose.
Okay.
Also, I get white wine, which was the next thing that really came through strong for me. Almost like a Chardonnay.
I get the white wine more than the grapefruit, personally.
Yeah. And then almond is the third thing that really popped out to me on it.
Okay. Little nuts.
Yeah. Some nice nuts in the nose.
All right.
Not usually where you want the nuts, but it's all right with Oban.
Yeah. So for the flavor, I get a lot of pepper. The first sip that you take, I get a real peppery. That fades as you sip it more, and kind of goes into a honey, vanilla, very faint cinnamon, and I get a little pumpkin.
Okay.
It kind of develops as you're sipping it, and throughout. I mean, this is, I would say, out of all the whiskeys that I have tried, this is top 5 for complexity.
Yeah,
like that's its biggest attribute. There's a lot going on in both the nose and
it's
the
all
flavor.
Enjoyable.
And it goes right through with the long aftertaste.
Comes in
very,
waves.
very good.
Yep. First thing that popped out to me, there is an initial sweetness. I like what you said, it had like a honey quality to it. And then I get a little bit of leather and light smoke. And then it kind of finishes for me with a cedar. Like I imagine being in a cedar closet.
Right.
When I let it linger for, 30 seconds or so. That's what I finish with.
I think it gets sweeter as you drink it. Like, I think it starts the first few sips very peppery, kind of spicy with the cinnamon, and then it kind of like moves into a vanilla, honey. I get a little bit of pumpkin, and I think it gets sweeter as you sip it. Mine's gone. You're still about halfway through.
I don't get to hang out with the bottle after I leave here. So
I think the last sip, like the very last sip, was very sweet.
Yeah.
Yes. Very brown sugar, vanilla.
Brown sugar, yes. I don't get a lot of vanilla, but I definitely get that brown sugar. Like brown sugar and honey.
Wait until
That'd probably be a good combination. Brown sugar and honey?
It is.
I've never mixed the two.
I have.
Really? For what
so
purpose?
with you take sliced apples, and you take some peanut butter and some honey, some vanilla, and some like a little bit of brown sugar and a little bit of cinnamon sugar, and you kind of like stir it all up with some chocolate chips.
Sounds
and
divine.
You dip your apple slices in it.
Sounds divine,
It's very good. It's
Sounds
not
divine.
not healthy, which is the normal reason you would eat an apple, but it's very good.
I saw something online where somebody mixed. They took like nice raw honey and put whole cloves of garlic in it and let it sit for a week, and it makes the honey almost turn like much less viscous, like a watery honey. You don't add any water to it, but the moisture inside the garlic leaks out into the honey, and you get like this honey garlic. And he said it was good for like rubbing it on like the crust of pizzas, things like that. Or you can just take a teaspoon of it because obviously garlic is good for your body and immune system and all that good stuff.
I know, like when
I keep meaning to do it.
When you make a homemade like honey mustard, it gets runnier. Yeah, which is kind of weird. Like when you like mix this regular.
I love honey mustard.
Oh man.
Get some spicy brown and some honey, mix them up together.
You don't need a lot. Like I usually just use regular yellow mustard and some honey. And just mix the two. You got to make sure. We're gonna have this
conversation, honey. You gotta try with some spicy brown.
I would try it.
I think you should try it. I think you would like it.
I like it with just the regular mustard. Obviously, we've had this conversation. You like spicy brown more, and I like regular.
It's one of my favorite conversations to have with you, Hetty.
But I mean, you add the honey to it, it completely changes it.
Oh, it's so good.
It's very good.
It's so much better than you could buy in the store.
Yep, and you can change the spiciness of the mustard by just adding like your ratio of honey to mustard. Yep. More mustard, more spicy, more honey, more sweeter. Yeah. Yep.
Good stuff.
You can add a little sprinkle of brown sugar in there if you like the little.
I like
little
that,
bit sweeter.
You keep talking about mixing this brown sugar into this honey, and I got to tell you, man, it's doing all kinds of things for me.
Let me tell you, you should try it.
Tell me.
You should try it.
All right, there you go. You just told me.
It's a good mix.
I'm gonna give it a shot.
All right.
While I'm out working here this week, I'm going to stop and buy some honey from a roadside stand.
All right.
Which is the only place you should buy honey, by the way. Support your local farmers. They're out there doing the Lord's work. keeping the bee population alive.
Man.
And so good, isn't it?
Yeah, I will say, like, I just poured like a little splash again in my glass.
It's as good as I remember, and I remember it being real. I've raved about this to several people.
The thing is I just finished, like, I probably had like 4 sips. It was probably like an ounce pour, the first one. Yeah. And I just poured it again, and I said it started off peppery and then got real sweet. Second pour again starts off very like spicy, peppery.
Weird.
And then it like gets sweeter as you go. I thought a second pour would start off a little bit.
Palate that was just being diluted.
I thought it would start off sweeter again, because I've already had a little bit, like 4 sips. Now I'm on my 5th. Second pouring, but it would be sweeter.
The heat of it. I wonder if that has something to do with it, because obviously the longer it sits in your glass and you're holding the glass, it's going to get warmer. I wonder, that's the only thing that would make it...
Air. It's just airing it out. I think that changes it.
That's possible.
Because, I mean, I always like try to hold it so I'm not like heating it up. But
temperature has... I'll bet you that temperature has a bigger variance in the taste of a whiskey at this point. With the bottle having been open for 3 months and it being half full, I'll bet you that the air... mixture that's going into it right now opposed to what's going on in the bottle, I'll bet you is not that drastically different. I'll bet you it's the heat, because you cool down a crappy whiskey, you throw a crappy whiskey on ice and you can drink it.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
Straight,
But I will say we proved that with the Johnny Walker one, the White Walker Johnny Walker. Remember when we put it in the freezer the way
I did not care for the White Walker.
You liked it when it was warm and not cold.
I don't recall that.
So it's very spicy cold. Like very like winter spices, like very warming. And when it's warm, it's very fruity, floral. Yeah. Like completely changes the flavor.
I just don't like drinking a whiskey neat cold.
All right.
It just does. It does.
So it's out of my freezer. I'll have to have it like after the podcast. I'll give you a little bit like warm, and it'll be different.
Yeah, just a little nip, because I gotta get heading down the road
so,
here.
What's your official score?
I rated this one highly.
Okay.
I will say that I rated this one highly. I gave it. I'll just run through here real quick. I gave it an 8 out of 10 on nose. I gave it an 8 out of 10 on the nose as well. Okay. I gave it a 8 out of 10 on mouthfeel and smoothness. I think it's a smooth whiskey. Although, like I said, I don't know if I said it on the podcast or before. I've been drinking almost exclusively bourbons for the last 3 months. So I have not been drinking a lot of scotch.
So I gave it a 6.
Okay.
Mouthfeel and smoothness.
All right. I gave it a 7.5 in flavor.
I gave it a 6 for that as well.
Okay. Balance and complexity, I gave it a 7.
I gave it a 7 as well.
Aftertaste.
Although I think it's more complex than a 7.
Yeah.
But when we do our reviews 1 out of 10 in 5 categories, and then we double the score for our totals. I'm fairly low scoring compared to most.
Yes, you are.
So 7 for complexity is very, very good for me.
Yes, it is. Aftertaste, I gave it a 7 as well.
Aftertaste, I gave it a 7.5. Okay.
For a total of 75 for me.
My total was 69.
So not that far off. In I mean, sometimes me and you are separate by 20 points.
Yep. Because I think you are we both like good whiskeys.
Yes.
You favor the bourbon. I favor Scotch.
Yes.
And I tend to favor smoothness.
Yeah, smoothness does not matter much to me. It matters a little bit to me, but it does not matter. Like if I was rating, if I had my own spreadsheet, because we use a Google Doc, an Excel spreadsheet for our whiskey tasting to do this on. Yep. And if I was creating a spreadsheet simply for me for tasting, what do we got to do? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Five
that are
categories.
10 points each.
Yep.
I wouldn't eliminate any of them, but I would probably take away 5 possible points from mouthfeel and smoothness.
Okay.
And give it to
like flavor.
Yeah, flavor, I'd say.
All right.
Yeah. Which I think lends itself to a bourbon lover.
Yep.
Probably, because bourbon is much more flavor forward and less smooth and refined that way.
Well, that's why we actually named them what we did, because there's the nose, there's mouthfeel / smoothness, which is 1.
Yep.
Same thing with the complexity. There's balance and complexity, because you could have a very complex whiskey, but the flavors are just all over. So it depends on do you want a super complex whiskey where it goes from like rose petals and then all of a sudden you're tasting sweet apple pie? But this is, I have to say, like,
one
going
of
back
the
and
best at flavor development.
Yes.
Moving through different flavors.
This is absolutely probably maybe top 3 without like going through everything, but definitely top 5 for complexity of a whiskey.
It's probably been, how long do you think since I had my last sip? Maybe 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes since I had my last sip of it. And I'm almost in like a tobacco or coffee flavor. Mm-hmm. And I haven't had anything else, a tobacco or coffee flavor after 3 to 5 minutes after my last sip of it, and that's not something that I ever wrote on here because obviously I was writing as I was doing it. So, really nice.
This is a great one if you're not used to scotches and you drink lower level scotches and or bourbons. If you really want to see what a scotch is all about,
what it can be.
If you have $65, which I think about what this is, get this bottle. It'll show you why Scotch is world renowned. Yeah, and Scotch is definitely more complex than your normal bourbons. Bourbons are very two to three flavors. 3 to 4 if it's a very, very good bourbon. But I don't
know if I've ever had a bourbon that made me think 4 different things.
All right, but Scotch is complexity, and this is one of its best for a very, very reasonable price. So if you ever want to experiment with what a Scotch has
reasonable
to offer.
for what you get. I mean, $70 is a lot to spend on a bottle of whiskey, but you're not drinking this as your daily drinker. You're not pouring it to, unwind. You're pouring a 1 ounce shot to sit and enjoy over 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, or whatever, and think about it. And it's worth it. It's worth it for sure. Even in tight times. I know people are going through tight times right now.
Yep.
If it's that or food for your kids, don't buy it. But if you got $70 to spend, if you're going to go out to dinner that night, or you can go get a bottle of whiskey, get the bottle of whiskey. It'll last you longer than the dinner, and you'll enjoy it more.
I will say, expensive whiskeys kind of get a bad rap for being expensive, but they're not as expensive as you think.
Yeah.
So
that's what we try to do here, I think. I think we try to help people find good whiskeys that are not expensive.
Yeah. So if you take a $70 bottle of whiskey that has 25 to 26 ounces in it, if it's a 750. So just for figure's sake, I estimated high on this bottle. I said 70. And I estimated low on the ounces, which is 25. I think it's slightly more than that.
It says it on here, doesn't it?
Well, it's 750 milliliters. Oh. I think it's like 20.
The Europeans.
I think it's like 25.8 ounces or 26.6 ounces, something like that.
Okay.
I mean, I could do the math, but if you take it as just 25 ounces, that's $2.80 a serving. So, I mean...
And you can get a lot of enjoyment out of that.
You can get a lot of enjoyment out of a bottle of whiskey, just because... I mean,
and then go buy a bottle of Jim Beam to have as your actual drink you're going to drink the rest of the night.
Yeah.
Because that's fine for drinking.
Have one good one, and you have 25 nights where you could have a serving of this and be very, very happy with it. And
I, as a family man, as a man who is the only provider in my house, my wife doesn't work. I got 5 kids. I will buy a bottle of this. I love it.
Yep.
It's a great bottle.
So that's our whiskey review of the Oban Bay Reserve. Mine was a 69. Yours was a
75.
75.
Yep.
And highly recommended by the Grow Man Podcast. Yep. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Yep.